What if I told you that one of the most feared rulers in African history began his life as an outcast? He was a child mocked by his own people, rejected by his father, forced into exile with his mother, a boy who knew hunger long before he knew power. Most people would have been broken by such a beginning, but not Shaka, because that unwanted child would grow into a warrior whose name would send fear across southern Africa. He built an army unlike anything the region had ever seen. He reshaped kingdoms and redraw borders. He left behind a legacy so powerful that more than 200 years later, historians still debate whether he was a hero, a conqueror, or something in between. But here is the part most people do not know. Behind the legend stood a lonely boy carrying wounds that never truly healed, and those wounds would create both his greatness and his downfall. Today, we uncover the extraordinary story of Shaka Zulu, a story of rejection, ambition, war, loss, and destiny. Before we begin, let us know in the comments, do you believe hardship creates greatness, or does greatness come from within? If you enjoy African history documentaries, do not forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. Now, let us travel back more than 200 years to a world where a future king was about to be born. In southern Africa, the late 18th century, rolling green hills stretched endlessly towards the horizon. Rivers carved through valleys rich with life. Cattle grazed across open grasslands, and scattered throughout the region were dozens of small chiefdoms, each with its own traditions, alliances, and rivalries. This was a world where family determined your place in the society, where honor meant everything, and where reputation could shape the future of generations. It was into this world that a child named Shaka was born. At first glance, there was nothing to suggest he would become one of history's most famous rulers. In fact, many believed he would become nothing at all. His mother was a woman named Nandi. His father was Senzangakona, a chief among the Zulu people. But from the very beginning, controversy surrounded the child's birth. Stories passed down through generations tell of ridicule and rejection. Some questioned whether the child truly belonged to Senzangakona, others mocked Nandi. The whispers spread, the rumors grew, and before Shaka was old enough to understand the words being spoken about him, he was already carrying a burden he never asked for. Imagine growing up surrounded by people who constantly remind you that you don't belong. Imagine hearing insults before you can even understand their meaning. Imagine watching other children accepted while you and your mother are treated as outsiders. That was the young world Shaka knew. As the years passed, the situation worsened. Eventually, Nandi and her son found themselves pushed further and further to the margins of society. The protection they expected never truly came. The respect they deserved never arrived. Life became a struggle, not the kind of struggle that lasts for a few days, the kind that shapes a person's entire character. There were days when food was scarce, days when humiliation felt unavoidable, days when survival itself seemed uncertain. For Nandi, every sunrise brought another battle. For Shaka, every hardship became a lesson he would never forget. Many years later, people would look at Shaka's military discipline and wonder where it came from. Perhaps the answer began here, in the pain of childhood, in the rejection, in the loneliness, because hardship was a way of changing people. Some become weaker, others become stronger, and a few become unstoppable. Even as a boy, Shaka displayed qualities that set him apart. He was physically strong, determined, resilient. He endured conditions that might have crushed others, but beneath that growing strength was something deeper, a quiet fire, a burning desire to prove everyone wrong. Every insult became fuel, every rejection became motivation, every obstacle became another reason to keep moving forward. The world had taught him a harsh lesson. Nobody was coming to save him. If he wanted respect, he would have to earn it. If he wanted power, he would have to take it. If he wanted a future, he would have to create it himself. And without realizing it, the people who rejected Shaka were helping forge one of the most formidable leaders Africa would ever know. But before he could become a king, he first had to become a warrior, and that transformation was about to begin. As Shaka entered his teenage years, something remarkable became impossible to ignore. He was different, taller than many of his peers, stronger, faster, and more determined. But physical strength alone does not create greatness. What truly separated Shaka from others was his mindset. While many young men accepted the lives they were given, Shaka wanted more, much more. He wanted respect, recognition, purpose, and most importantly, he wanted to escape the shadow of his past. Opportunity arrived through a powerful leader named the Nkinswayo. At the time, the Nkinswayo ruled the Metetwa people, one of the most influential groups in the region. Unlike many rulers, the Nkinswayo recognized talent when he saw it. And when Shaka entered his military service, everything changed. For the first time in his life, Shaka found himself in an environment where ability mattered more than birth. The battlefield did not care who your father was. He did not care about rumors. He did not care about childhood insults. All that mattered was courage, discipline, and results. Shaka excelled almost immediately. Other warriors noticed his determination, commanders noticed his discipline, leaders noticed his intelligence. He was not merely a fighter, he was a thinker. While others focused on winning the next battle, Shaka studied while battles were won in the first place. He observed, he analyzed, he learned. Every campaign became a classroom, every victory became a lesson, every defeat became an opportunity. He watched how warriors moved, how formations broke apart, how fear spread among enemies, how confidence inspired allies. Most importantly, he began questioning traditional methods of warfare. At the time, many armies relied heavily on throwing spears from a distance. Battles often involved brief clashes before one side retaliated. But Shaka saw weakness in this approach. To him, warriors were wasting opportunities. Why throw a spear and lose your weapon? Why allow enemies to recover? Why fight halfway when victory demanded total commitment? The questions kept growing, and slowly, dangerous ideas began forming in his mind. Ideas that would eventually revolutionize warfare across southern Africa. Meanwhile, Shaka's reputation continued to rise. Each campaign added to his growing legend. Each success earned him more respect. The boy once mocked by society was becoming one of the most admired warriors in the region. But admiration was only the beginning, because Shaka was not satisfied with being a good soldier. He wanted to change the entire system, and soon he would get the chance. The innovations he was about to introduce would make him famous. The kingdoms around him would never be the same again, and neither would the future of Southern Africa. History remembers many great kings, many conquerors, many rulers, but only a handful completely transformed the art of war. Shaka was one of them. The ideas he had developed as a young warrior were finally becoming reality, and they would change everything. Shaka believed that victory belonged to the most disciplined army, not the largest, not the richest, the most disciplined. His warriors trained tirelessly. They marched extraordinary distances. They endured harsh conditions. They learned how to move quickly and strike with precision. Weakness was not tolerated. Excuses were not accepted. The standards were brutal, but the results were undeniable. Then came one of his most famous innovations, a weapon that would become legendary, the Ikwa. Unlike traditional throwing spears, the Ikwa was shorter and designed for close combat. Its purpose was simple: get close, strike decisively, end the fight. Many warriors initially resisted the idea. Close combat was dangerous, terrifying even. But Shaka believed hesitation was more dangerous than courage, and over time, his warriors adapted. Soon, they became masters of close quarters fighting. Then came the innovation that would cement his reputation forever, the famous buffalo horn formation. Simple in concept, devastating in execution. The center of the army, known as the chest, would engage the enemy directly. Meanwhile, the two flanking forces, known as the horns, would sweep around both sides. A reserve force remained behind, ready to reinforce weak points or exploit opportunities. Once the horns closed in, the enemy found themselves trapped, surrounded, confused, and often defeated before they fully understood what was happening. It was brilliant, efficient, terrifying. Again and again, the strategy worked, and with every victory, Shaka's reputation grew. Neighboring communities began hearing stories of warriors who moved with astonishing speed, stories of armies that seemed impossible to stop, stories of a commander whose tactical genius left enemies stunned. Some dismissed the story as exaggerations, others believed every word, but everyone was paying attention because a new force was rising in southern Africa, and its leader was unlike anyone they had ever seen. Yet, military genius alone would not make Shaka famous. His greatest challenge was still ahead, for soon, fate would place something within his reach that he had desired his entire life. Power, real power. The opportunity to lead not just warriors, but an entire nation. And when that moment arrived, history would change forever. By the year 1816, Shaka had already earned a reputation as one of the most capable military leaders in the region. But no matter how talented he was, he remained a servant to larger forces. This was about to change. Far away, events were unfolding that would alter the course of his life forever. His father, Kahuna, the Zulu chief who had largely rejected him during childhood, was dead. The news traveled quickly. For most men, the death of a father would bring grief. For Shaka, it brought something else: opportunity. The Zulu people now faced a leadership struggle. Several men believed they had a stronger claim to power. Many assumed Shaka would remain a respected warrior and nothing more. They underestimated him. What they failed to understand was that Shaka had spent his entire life preparing for moments like this. He had survived rejection, he had mastered warfare, he had earned the trust of powerful allies, and now those allies would help him. With the support of the Ngiswayo and the Metetwa alliance, Shaka secured leadership of the Zulu people. The unwanted child had become chief, but if his rivals expected him to be satisfied with that achievement, they were mistaken. Most leaders think about protecting what they possess. Shaka thought about building something larger, something stronger, something that could endure. He looked around southern Africa and saw dozens of scattered chiefdoms, small states, small ambitions, small futures. He believed a different path was possible. One kingdom, one powerful force, one vision. And so began one of the most remarkable expansions in African history. Village by village, chiefdom by chiefdom, the Zulu Kingdom began to grow, sometimes through alliances, sometimes through diplomacy, and sometimes through conquest. Communities throughout the region faced difficult choices: join the rising power, submit peacefully, or resist. Those who resisted often found themselves facing one of the most disciplined armies in Africa, and a few could withstand it. With every victory, Shaka's influence expanded. His warriors became symbols of strength. His kingdom became a symbol of power. His name became a symbol of fear. Stories spread across the land. Travelers whispered about him around campfires. Merchants discussed him in distant settlements. Chiefs worried about him in their councils. Everyone seemed to be asking the same question: how far would Shaka go? The answer was becoming clear, farther than anyone imagined, because he wasn't simply building a kingdom, he was building an empire, and the consequences would be felt across an entire region. History often turns powerful people into legends. Legends become symbols, symbols become might, and somewhere along the way, we forget that they were human. Shaka was no exception. Today, many people imagine him only as a warrior, a conqueror, a king, but behind the image stood a man shaped by experience that never left him. Think back to the boy who grew facing rejection, the child who watched his mother endure humiliation, the young man who fought for every ounce of respect he received. Those memories did not disappear when he became king. They remained with him. Perhaps they also would. Many historians believe Shaka's difficult childhood deeply influenced his leadership style. The boy who once lacked security became a ruler obsessed with strength. The child who knew humiliation demanded respect. The young warrior who fought for recognition expected loyalty, absolute loyalty. And in many ways, the expectation made sense. Trust had not come easily in his life, neither had acceptance. Power gave him something he never possessed before: control. For the first time, nobody could force him aside. Nobody could mock him without consequence. Nobody could decide his future except him. Yet, power has a strange effect on human beings. It solves some problems while creating others. The more successful Shaka became, the more isolated he appeared. The higher he rose, the fewer people were willing to challenge him. The greater his authority, the more difficult it became to know who truly supported him. Was someone loyal because they believed in him, or because they feared him? It's a question that many powerful leaders face, and oftentimes there is no easy answer. Despite his growing reputation, Shaka was still capable of deep emotion. He loved his mother fiercely. He valued courage. He admired discipline. And he possessed a vision for the future that inspired many followers. Thousands of warriors willingly served under him, not merely because they feared punishment, but because they believed they were helping build something extraordinary, a kingdom unlike any that had existed before. Yet, even as admiration grew, so did concern, because some observers noticed changes in behavior, changes in expectations, changes in the way power seemed to be affecting the king. At first, those changes were subtle, easy to ignore, but over time, they would become impossible to overlook, and the consequences would shape the next chapter of his reign. Every great empire reaches a moment when strength becomes dominance, when admiration becomes intimidation, when respect begins to blur into fear. For Shaka's kingdom, the moment had arrived. The Zulu state was now one of the most feared forces in southern Africa. Its military was respected, its leadership was feared, its influence continued expanding, and at the center of it all stood Shaka, a man whose authority seemed almost limitless. Warriors obeyed his commands without hesitation. Commanders carried out his orders. Communities throughout the region adjusted their decisions based on what Shaka might do next. His power had become enormous, but enormous power often produces enormous pressure. As expectations increased, discipline became harsher, mistakes became more costly, standards became more demanding. To supporters, these measures were necessary. A great kingdom required discipline. A strong army required sacrifice. A powerful state required unity. But critics saw something different. They saw fear. They saw control. They saw a ruler becoming increasingly difficult to question. Stories from this period remained controversial. Some accounts describe severe punishment. Others may have been exaggerated by later writers. Separating fact from legend is not always easy. What historians do agree upon is this: Shaka ruled with extraordinary intensity, and that intensity affected everyone around him. Meanwhile, the wider region was changing dramatically. Wars, migrations, displacement, communities moved in search of safety. New alliances emerged. Old rivalries exploded into conflict. Entire populations found themselves caught in waves of upheaval. Historians still debate the exact causes of these changes, but there is little doubt that the rise of the Zulu Kingdom played an important role. To some people, Shaka was a visionary nation builder, a leader bringing strength and unity. To others, he was a conqueror whose expansion brought suffering. Perhaps the truth lies somewhere between those extremes, because history rarely offers simple heroes or simple villains. Instead, it offers human beings, complex, brilliant, flawed, and often contradictory. Shaka was all of this, and while his kingdom appeared stronger than ever, danger was quietly approaching. Not from rival enemies, not from distant armies, but from something far more powerful, something that no warrior, no matter how great, can ever fully escape, and that was loss. That loss was about to change everything. For all the battle Shaka had won, for all the enemies he had defeated, for all the kingdoms he had conquered, there was one army he could never defeat. That army was loss. Throughout his life, one person has stood beside him when almost nobody else would: his mother, Nandi. When the world mocked him, she defended him. When others rejected him, she believed in him. When hardship threatened to break them both, she endured. Long before Shaka became a king, Nandi had been his protector, his guide, and his close ally. Now she was gone. The death of Nandi struck Shaka harder than any spell ever could. The mighty king who had terrified rival rulers found himself overwhelmed by grief. To many observers, it seemed as though a part of him died alongside her. Accounts from this period describe a ruler consumed by sorrow. Some stories claim he ordered widespread mourning throughout the kingdom. Others suggest his grief became increasingly difficult to control. Historians continue to debate which accounts are accurate and which may have been exaggerated over time. But one fact remains clear: Nandi's death changed Shaka. Profoundly, the disciplined leader who had built an empire began showing signs of emotional instability. His decisions became harder to predict, his moods became darker, his behavior increasingly concerned those closest to him. The warriors who once saw an unstoppable ruler now saw a grieving man, a man carrying pain he could not escape. And grief can be a dangerous thing, not because it makes people weak, but because it can change the way they see the world. Months passed, yet sorrow remained. Instead of healing, the wound seemed to deepen. The kingdom continued to function, the army remained strong, the empire still stood, but something at the center was beginning to crack. Most people did not notice it at first. The few who did were afraid to speak. After all, who challenges a king? Who questions a ruler whose authority reaches across an entire region? Who tells the most powerful man in southern Africa that he is losing control? Very few, and that silence would soon prove costly, because while Shaka struggled with grief, others were quietly watching, waiting, calculating, and planning. Every great empire faces enemies. Some come from beyond its borders, others emerge from within. For Shaka, the greatest threat was not an invading army, it was betrayal. As dissatisfaction grew among certain members of the kingdom, dangerous conversations began taking place behind closed doors. Whispers turned into discussions, discussions turned into plans, and plans slowly became a conspiracy. Some feared the direction the kingdom was taking. Others believed Shaka's grief had made him unpredictable. Still, others saw an opportunity to gain control and power for themselves. Whatever their motives, one thing united them. They believed the king's reign had to end. Among those closest to Shaka were his half-brothers, men who understood him better than most, men who watched his rise to power, men who knew his strengths and his weaknesses. In 1828, events finally reached a breaking point. A conspiracy formed and the trap was set. History records that Shaka was assassinated by members of his own inner circle, not by a foreign enemy, not on a battlefield, not while leading warriors into combat, but by people he knew, people he trusted. It is one of the greatest ironies of history. The man who survived countless conflicts could not survive betrayal. The warrior who conquered rivals across southern Africa could not defeat enemies standing beside him. Accounts of his final moments differ. Some have become legends, others may contain embellishments added over time. But regardless of the details, the outcome was the same. Shaka was dead. He approximately was 40 years old. The king who had transformed southern Africa, the strategist who had revolutionized warfare, the ruler who had built an empire from almost nothing, was gone. Yet, death did not erase what he had created. The kingdom remained, the army remained, the legacy remained, and in many ways, Shaka's influence was only beginning, because some leaders shaped their own era, others shaped centuries. Shaka belonged to the second group. He was among those who shaped centuries. More than 200 years have passed since Shaka's death, yet his name continues to echo across Africa and around the world. That alone tells us something remarkable. Most rulers are forgotten. Most kingdoms fade into history. Most leaders disappear into dusty records. But Shaka remains unforgettable. Why? Simply because he changed history. His military innovations influenced generations of warriors. His leadership transformed a small chiefdom into a powerful kingdom. His vision reshaped the political landscape of Southern Africa, and his story continues to fascinate people centuries later. Books have been written about him. Documentaries have explored his life. Historians continue debating his achievements and failures. Some see him as a brilliant nation builder, a visionary leader who united people and created strength where there had once been division. Others focus on the suffering and disruption associated with his expansion, a conqueror whose ambitions brought hardship to many communities. Both perspectives contain elements of truth, but Shaka was neither a perfect hero nor a simple villain. He was something far more interesting, a human being, complex, ambitious, gifted, flawed, driven by both vision and pain, capable of greatness, capable of mistakes, just like every powerful figure in history. Perhaps that is why his story still endures, not because he was perfect, but because he was real. His life reminds us that greatness often emerges from adversity, that ambition can transform both individuals and nations, and that the qualities that led people to extraordinary success can sometimes contribute to their downfall. Today, the Zulu nation remains one of Africa's most significant cultural communities, and at the center of its historical story stands Shaka, the boy who was rejected, the warrior who became unstoppable, the king who changed a continent's history, and the legend whose story continues to inspire debates across generations. The story of Shaka Zulu is ultimately a story about transformation. A rejected child became a warrior became a king became a legend, and a legend became history. But perhaps the most fascinating question is this: if Shaka had enjoyed a happy childhood, would he have become the man we know today? Would the Zulu Kingdom have risen as it did? Would Southern Africa have followed a completely different path? We will never know. What we do know is that one man's determination altered the course of history and left a legacy that still echoes more than 2 centuries later. And that is what makes Shaka Zulu one of the most extraordinary figures Africa has ever produced. If you enjoyed this documentary, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss another deep dive into African history. And we would love to hear from you. Was Shaka Zulu a hero, a conqueror, a nation builder, or all three? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. If you watched all the way to the end, comment the Lion of the Zulu. Thank you for watching, and remember, history is rarely simple, but that is exactly what makes it worth exploring. Until next time.